Now, a lot of people have been sharing memories of President Bush. One of them is former White House Press Secretary Scott McClellan. He spent 3 years in that position, but worked for President George W. Bush for 7 years in all. And during that time, he tells me, he had several encounters with the elder Bush and some wonderful memories. He began tonight by telling me about one of the times the former president and wife Barbara were staying at the White House during a visit.
And I'd hear him walking down the hallway to my office, which is very close to the Oval Office, and I'd hear his voice when he'd ask my assistant, was he busy right now? And I don't want to interrupt him if he's busy. And I'd jump up and say, Mr. President, you just feel free to come on in. And he goes, well, I know how busy people get in here. I don't want to bother you if you're busy. And I was like, no, come on in anytime. And we would just visit, and he'd see how things were going, and nothing other than to just touch base and say hi. And that was the kind of generosity that people saw in him, and I saw it in a different way, and just kind of that way it would just always lift up my spirits when I would see him. Another memory that really sticks in my mind, and I have not gone back to look at it this week yet. I think I will do so after the funeral. I just don't feel like looking at it yet. Is the day I announced I was leaving the White House. So the president and I went out to the South Lawn, made the announcement, and then we had an event we were going to in Georgia. So Marine One was waiting for us on the South Lawn. Well, this is probably the only time in history that Marine One had an engine failure, so we could not take off. We got on and we had to come back into the White House. Well, when I came back into the White House, while we're waiting on the motorcade to arrive to take us to Andrews Air Force Base, there on my desk, my assistant had placed a faxed handwritten letter from President George H.W. Bush expressing his gratitude for my service to me and all that it meant to him as the father of the president and as a former president. And one of his handwritten notes that he's known for, he FedExed it to me that night, and I had it the next day in the office. And that letter is something that I will always keep and cherish. Certainly he had a fierceness to him, and you saw that competitive nature in him during campaigns. You saw it when he was trying to work to get legislation passed. But he knew once the election was done that you were elected to govern, and that governing in country came before partisanship and political maneuvering. He treated everyone around him with dignity and respect. I mean, everyone. I saw that up close and personal, the close relationship he developed with President Clinton when we traveled to the Pope's funeral in 2005. We had 3 presidents on that flight with us, the 43rd, the 42nd, and the 41st president. And the friendship between President Bush, 41, and President Clinton was real. You would see them together in the White House, and just the way that and here, 2 former political rivals, but that's the kind of President Bush that I knew, the decency and goodness within him that you saw in everything that he did, and something that we miss in this day and age, in our political age. He may go down as one of, if not the greatest one-term presidents in our history.
The country will observe a national day of mourning tomorrow to honor former President Bush. That means no regular mail delivery. The post office will be closed. So will the New York Stock Exchange, the NASDAQ, some banks and courts, along with all federal offices.